The warning klaxons aboard the International Space Station Horizon blared through the midnight shift, jolting Commander Yuki Tanaka from her data analysis. The massive orbital platform, humanity's pride and most advanced space installation of 2089, had detected something unprecedented, an object decelerating from faster-than-light travel just beyond Jupiter's orbit. "Status report," Tanaka demanded, her fingers flying across the holographic interface as she pulled up the sensor data. The readings made no sense. The object's mass kept fluctuating as if it was phasing in and out of reality itself. "Unknown vessel, approximately 300 meters in length," reported Dr. Hassan Rahman, the station's lead physicist. His dark eyes were wide with excitement as he processed the incoming data. "It's using some form of technology that seems to bend spacetime itself. Commander, this is it, first contact." But something was wrong. The vessel's approach was erratic, its trajectory suggesting severe damage or malfunction. As they watched, it began venting plasma in brilliant purple streams across the void. "They're in trouble," Tanaka realized. "Contact the Defense Council immediately. And get me Admiral Kenzo on a secure line." Within hours, humanity faced its first great test as a spacefaring species. The vessel belonged to the Zaxians, a warrior race from a distant arm of the galaxy. Their ship had suffered a catastrophic failure during an exploratory mission, leaving them stranded in a system they had deemed too primitive to be of interest. Admiral James Kenzo stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, humanity's most advanced rescue vessel, as they approached the alien ship. At 62, his weathered face bore the marks of a lifetime spent pushing the boundaries of human space exploration. "They're broadcasting some kind of distress signal," Lieutenant Riya Patel reported from her communications station. "The universal translator is struggling, but the message seems clear: their core is going critical." The decision that followed would echo through centuries. Despite the Defense Council's concerns about potential hostile intent, despite the warrior markings clearly visible on the alien vessel's hull, Kenzo gave the order that would change humanity's destiny. "Begin rescue operations," he commanded. "All teams in radiation suits. Dr. Patel, keep working on that translation matrix. Let's show them humanity's best face." The rescue itself was a testament to human ingenuity. The Zacian ship's technology was completely alien, its corridors arranged in geometric patterns that seemed to defy Euclidean geometry. But human engineers, led by Chief Technical Officer Marcus Rivera, worked tirelessly to understand enough of the alien systems to stabilize the failing core. The Zacian crew, 8-foot-tall beings with iridescent exoskeletons and multiple compound eyes, watched in bewilderment as these smaller, softer creatures worked to save their lives. Their commander, Supreme Guardian Vexthor, had been prepared to trigger their ship's self-destruct rather than fall into primitive hands. Instead, he witnessed something unprecedented in his species' history: unconditional aid from complete strangers. "Why do you help us?" Vexthor demanded through the crude translation system Patel had managed to establish. "We would not have done the same." Admiral Kenzo's response was simple: "Because we can. Because every spacefaring race should stand ready to help another in distress. That's the only way we'll all survive out here in the long run." The Zaxians were kept in medical quarantine aboard the Prometheus for 3 weeks while their ship underwent repairs. During this time, human scientists learned much from simply observing their guests and their technology, though the Zaxians kept their most advanced systems locked down. What the aliens didn't realize was that humanity's greatest strength lay not in stealing their technology, but in understanding the principles behind it. Dr. Rivera spent countless hours studying the quantum fluctuations in the Zacian hull plating. Dr. Patel's linguistic analysis of their language revealed patterns that would revolutionize human understanding of information theory. Even the bacteria in their environmental suits would later prove crucial to humanity's biological engineering breakthroughs. When the Zacian ship finally departed, its crew bound by honor to report this encounter to their empire, Vexthor made a cryptic statement that few at the time fully understood: "You have shown great mercy, humans. The Empire will not forget this demonstration of weakness." Admiral Kenzo understood the threat behind those words, but he remained steadfast in his conviction. In his final log entry before the Prometheus returned to Earth, he wrote, "We helped them not because we had to, but because that's who we choose to be. If showing compassion makes us weak in their eyes, then let them come and discover just how strong mercy has made us." The years that followed saw humanity unite around a singular purpose. The knowledge gained from that brief encounter, combined with the clear warning in Vexthor's farewell, sparked an unprecedented era of technological and social advancement. Countries pooled their resources, corporations redirected their research, and the entire species began preparing for the day the Zaxians would return. But they didn't prepare by building bigger guns or stronger shields. Instead, humanity took a different path, one that would prove far more revolutionary than anything the Zacian Empire could imagine. They began exploring the integration of biological and mechanical systems, creating technology that could adapt, evolve, and grow. As the first century passed, then the second, the story of the Zacian rescue became legend. But unlike most legends, this one drove innovation rather than complacency. Each generation added its own improvements to the bioorganic systems that would become humanity's greatest achievement. They built not just weapons or shields, but a whole new way of existing in space. The Zaxians would return, of that humanity was certain. But when they did, they would find not the weak, merciful primitives they expected, but something else entirely, a species that had taken the very concept of mercy and turned it into the foundation of power that had never been seen before in the galaxy. 3 centuries after humanity's first encounter with the Zaxians, High Commander Rylix stood on the bridge of the Imperial warship Dominion, his iridescent exoskeleton reflecting the harsh lighting as he studied the approaching solar system. The massive vessel led the largest fleet ever assembled in Zacian history, 10,000 warships strong, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent. Status report on the primitive world, Rylix commanded, his secondary eyes focusing on the tactical display while his primary set remained fixed on the blue-green planet growing larger in the view screen. "Scanning, High Commander," replied strategic analyst Venare, her claws dancing across the crystalline interface. "Detecting minimal orbital infrastructure. Several primitive satellites and a small orbital station. No significant defensive installations visible." She paused, mandibles clicking in confusion. "Although, there are some unusual energy signatures we can't quite identify." Rylix dismissed her concerns with a wave of his primary manipulator. The humans' primitive technology from 3 centuries ago had barely been able to achieve chemical rocket flight. Even with the brief glimpse they'd had of Zacian technology during that regrettable rescue, they couldn't have advanced enough to pose any genuine threat. That rescue still burned in the collective memory of the Empire. The mere thought that a pre-FTL species had shown mercy to the galaxy's most feared warrior race had been an embarrassment that had weakened their diplomatic position for generations. The story had spread, despite their best efforts to suppress it, becoming a joke in the courts of other spacefaring civilizations. "Begin the approach," Rylix ordered. "Launch scout ships to establish a perimeter. I want this to be witnessed across the galaxy. Today, we erase 3 centuries of shame." The first wave of Zacian vessels moved into position, their weapons charging with a distinctive purple glow that had terrorized 1,000 worlds. But as they entered high orbit, something unexpected happened. The primitive satellites began to move, their surfaces rippling like liquid metal. "High Commander." Venare's voice carried an edge of alarm. "Those aren't satellites, they're alive." The small orbital objects suddenly expanded, unfolding like massive mechanical flowers to reveal bioorganic structures that defied conventional engineering. Each one pulsed with an inner light that seemed to flow like blood through veins, their surfaces constantly shifting and adapting. Before Rylix could respond, new contacts appeared on their sensors. Rising from Earth's surface came thousands of vessels unlike anything the Zaxians had ever encountered. They moved with impossible grace, their hulls seamlessly blending biological and mechanical components. Some seemed to phase in and out of reality, while others appeared to bend space itself around them. Impossible, Rylix breathed, all four of his eyes widening in shock. They were primitives. They couldn't have. His words were cut off by a transmission that cut through their supposedly impenetrable communications encryption as if it didn't exist. The human voice spoke in perfect modern Zacian, its tone carrying both authority and an undertone of sadness. "This is Fleet Admiral Rajesh Patel of the Earth Defense Force," the voice announced. "We've been expecting you. For 3 centuries, we've been preparing for this moment. Not in fear, not in anger, but in the hope that when this day came, we could show you something new." The human ships moved with a fluidity that seemed to mock the rigid formations of the Zacian fleet. Their bioorganic vessels appeared to communicate with each other on a level that transcended normal technology, adapting and evolving their tactics in real time. "Your ancestors encountered a species that showed mercy," Admiral Patel continued. "You saw that as weakness. We saw it as an opportunity, not to copy your technology, but to forge our own path. We studied the principles behind your systems, yes, but more importantly, we studied life itself." As if to demonstrate his words, several human ships merged together, forming a larger entity that pulsed with energy. Others split apart into smaller, faster units that danced through space with organic precision. The Zacian fleet's initial scans couldn't even track them properly, their biosignatures kept shifting, evolving, adapting to each attempted analysis. By the first Emperor, Venare whispered, her tactical displays struggling to make sense of what they were seeing. "They're ships, they're not just machines. They're not just alive. They're both, and neither, and something more." Rylix watched in growing horror as his carefully planned assault began to unravel before it had even begun. The human vessels didn't just avoid their targeting systems, they seemed to anticipate them, as if they could read the very thoughts of the Zacian gunners. When the first shots were fired, the human ships' hulls absorbed the energy, their biological components processing and redistributing it in ways that defied physical laws as the Zaxians understood them. "You came here expecting to find the same primitives who rescued your scout ship," Admiral Patel's voice carried no mockery, only a deep conviction. "Instead, you found what we've become. We are no longer just humanity. We are what happens when mercy and innovation dance together across 3 centuries of preparation." As the human fleet surrounded them, their bioorganic ships pulsing with an energy that made the Zacian sensors scream in protest, Rylix realized that he had led his people into something far more dangerous than a simple punitive expedition. They had come to erase what they saw as an ancient shame, only to discover that their very concept of power and advancement had been hopelessly primitive all along. Deep within the EDF flagship Prometheus Ascendant, Captain Arya Desai interfaced directly with her vessel's neural network. Her consciousness merged with the ship's bioorganic systems, experiencing space through sensors that went far beyond traditional human perception. The ship wasn't just a tool or a weapon, it was an extension of her very being, a symbiotic partner in humanity's greatest achievement. Through her enhanced awareness, she could sense the Zacian fleet's confusion and growing fear. Their rigid, purely mechanical approach to warfare seemed almost primitive compared to the fluid grace of Earth's defense force. Each human vessel was unique, having evolved alongside its crew over years of deep connection. No 2 ships were exactly alike, just as no 2 human minds were identical. "Neural sync at optimal levels," reported Dr. Marcus Rivera IV, great-grandson of the engineer who had first studied Zacian technology centuries ago. His own consciousness rippled through the ship's secondary systems, monitoring the intricate dance of biological and mechanical components. "The fleet's collective consciousness is stable. We're ready to show them exactly what we've become." Through their shared neural network, Arya could feel the presence of every ship commander in Earth's defense fleet. Thousands of minds linked together, yet each maintaining their individual identity. It had taken humanity decades to perfect this technology, the ability to merge consciousness with machine while preserving what made each person unique. "Begin the demonstration," she commanded, her thoughts resonating through the fleet's shared awareness. The response was immediate and breathtaking. Across the battlefield, human ships began to transform. Some merged together into massive defensive platforms, their biological components interweaving at the molecular level. Others split apart into swarms of smaller craft, each fragment maintaining its own consciousness while remaining part of the greater whole. The very fabric of their hulls rippled and shifted, adapting to each Zacian attack before it even landed. High Commander Rylix watched in mounting horror as his fleet's most powerful weapons proved useless against the human vessels. "How are they doing this?" he demanded, his exoskeleton vibrating with stress. "No technology can evolve this quickly." As if in answer to his question, Admiral Patel's voice resonated through the command frequency again. "When we studied your ship 3 centuries ago, we realized something profound. The universe doesn't divide neatly into organic and mechanical. Life itself is a technology, and technology can be alive. We didn't just build better ships, we grew them, evolved them, became one with them." Through her neural link, Arya could sense the subtle shifts in the Zacian fleet's formation. Their rigid tactical doctrine was beginning to crack in the face of something they couldn't understand. She directed her attention to a particular cluster of enemy ships, allowing her vessel's biological components to analyze and predict their movements. "They're about to launch a concentrated plasma burst," she announced through the fleet's shared consciousness. Before the words had even finished forming, the human ships had already begun their response. Bioorganic hulls shifted their molecular structure, creating arrays of living crystals that would not just deflect the attack but absorb its energy to fuel their own systems. The Zacian attack came exactly as predicted, a massive surge of plasma energy that should have vaporized anything in its path. Instead, the human ship's crystalline structures captured the energy, their biological components processing and redistributing it through the fleet's shared network. The sight of their most powerful weapons being casually absorbed and repurposed sent shockwaves of disbelief through the Zacian ranks. "Your empire has spent centuries perfecting the art of destruction," Admiral Patel's voice carried a note of genuine sadness. "We chose a different path. Every ship in our fleet is alive, conscious, evolving. They are not our tools, they are our partners, our children, our future." To demonstrate his words, a squadron of human ships performed what should have been impossible. Their hulls began to pulse with bioluminescent patterns, complex mathematical equations playing out across their surfaces. Suddenly, the space between them seemed to fold, creating shortcuts through reality itself. The ships didn't just move through space, they rewrote its rules, their biological components working in harmony with quantum mechanics in ways the Zaxians had never imagined possible. "By the eternal void," Venare whispered, her tactical displays overwhelmed by the complexity of what they were witnessing. "They've turned their entire species into something new. This isn't just technological advancement, it's directed evolution on a scale that shouldn't be possible." Through her neural link, Arya could sense the growing realization among the Zacian fleet. They had come expecting to find humans still bound by the limitations of flesh and metal, still struggling to bridge the gap between organic and mechanical. Instead, they found a species that had transcended such distinctions entirely. "We could have built warships," Admiral Patel continued, his words echoing through both normal space and the quantum realm the human ships now navigated with ease. "We could have created weapons designed solely for destruction. Instead, we created life that yearns to explore, to learn, to grow. Every vessel in our fleet is capable of both perfect destruction and infinite creation, and that is precisely why we choose to show restraint." As if to emphasize his point, the human ships began emanating complex fields that seemed to twist the very fabric of spacetime. They weren't just defensive measures, they were attempts at communication on a level beyond normal physics, trying to show the Zaxians a glimpse of what humanity had discovered in their centuries of evolution. High Commander Rylix made his decision. If humanity had evolved beyond conventional warfare, then the Zacian Empire would respond with overwhelming force. All ships, initiate Protocol Omega, he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of martial tradition. Show these transcended humans the true meaning of power. Thousands of Zacian warships began charging their primary weapons, their crystalline cores pulsing with enough energy to reshape continents. It was their species' ultimate weapon, never before used in full force. The combined blast would not just destroy Earth's fleet, it would sterilize their entire solar system. Through the neural network, Captain Arya Desai felt the approaching storm. The energy buildup in the Zacian fleet reached levels that defied conventional physics. They mean to end this with a single strike, she communicated to the fleet consciousness. They'll destroy everything, even their own chance to learn from us. Admiral Patel's response rippled through the network, then we show them what mercy truly means. Initiate the Sunrise Protocol. Across Earth's fleet, bioorganic ships began a transformation that would redefine the very nature of space warfare. Their hulls didn't just shift or adapt, they evolved in real time, generations of potential changes happening in seconds. The quantum computers woven into their living tissues calculated millions of possible futures, while their biological components instinctively chose the paths of survival. The Zacian fleet unleashed their apocalyptic barrage. Space itself seemed to scream as thousands of energy beams converged, creating a wave of destruction that should have annihilated everything in its path. High Commander Rylix allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. No force in the universe could survive such power. But the human fleet didn't try to survive it. They transcended it. As the energy wave approached, the bioorganic ships executed a maneuver that existed somewhere between science and miracle. Their hulls began resonating at quantum frequencies, creating a cascading effect that rippled through spacetime itself. The ships didn't just absorb the energy, they reformed it, redirected it, transformed it. Impossible! Venare shouted, her tactical displays showing readings that violated every known law of physics. They're not just stopping the attack, they're turning it into something else. The devastating energy of the Zacian weapon was being channeled through the human fleet's neural network, converted by their bioorganic systems into pure creative potential. Where there should have been destruction, new structures began to form. Living crystals bloomed in space, each one containing libraries of human knowledge and experience. The very vacuum between the fleets began to shimmer with artificial synapses, a bridge of consciousness extending toward the Zacian ships. You see destruction as the ultimate expression of power, Admiral Patel's voice carried through this new medium, touching the minds of every Zacian warrior directly. We see it as a failure of imagination. The human fleet began moving in impossible patterns, their formations flowing like liquid mercury through dimensions the Zaxians couldn't even perceive. Each ship was now a gateway between what was and what could be, their bioorganic nature allowing them to exist in multiple states simultaneously. High Commander Rylix watched in growing despair as his fleet's most powerful weapon was transformed into a demonstration of humanity's transcendent capabilities. But what truly broke his warrior spirit was the realization that the humans were not attacking. Even now, even after the Zaxians had tried to annihilate their entire civilization, the humans were still trying to communicate, to share, to teach. Through the quantum bridge created by the transformed energy, the Zaxians began receiving streams of information. Not military secrets or weapon specifications, but the fundamental principles that had allowed humanity to evolve beyond the constraints of traditional existence. The humans were offering them a chance to understand, to grow, to transform. Your weapon contained enough energy to destroy our solar system. Captain Arya's thoughts resonated through the bridge, her consciousness touching each Zacian mind with gentle precision. We've turned it into a library of everything we've learned about the union of organic and mechanical life. The choice of what to do with this knowledge is yours. The battle, if it could still be called that, had become something entirely unprecedented. The human ships continued their impossible dance through reality, each movement a lesson in the potential of evolved consciousness. Their bioorganic forms demonstrated principles that the Zaxians had never imagined, ships that could think, heal, grow, and transform, all while maintaining perfect harmony with their human partners. In the heart of his flagship, High Commander Rylix faced the greatest crisis of his long military career. His fleet hung motionless in space, their most powerful weapons not just neutralized but transformed into tools of enlightenment. The humans had the power to destroy them utterly, yet they continued to offer knowledge, understanding, and most remarkably of all, mercy. 3 centuries ago, we helped your people because it was right, Admiral Patel's voice echoed through the quantum bridge. Today, we offer you the same choice. You can continue this attack, forcing us to demonstrate even more of what we've become, or you can join us in exploring what life itself can truly be. The bioorganic ships of Earth's fleet held their positions, their living hulls still resonating with the transformed energy of the Zacian attack. They had turned certain death into an opportunity for growth, destruction into creation, and now they waited, not as conquerors or victims, but as teachers ready to share the greatest lessons humanity had learned in their centuries of evolution. In the tense moments that followed humanity's demonstration of power and restraint, the vast expanse of space between the two fleets hummed with possibility. The quantum bridge created from the transformed energy of the Zacian weapon continued to pulse with knowledge, offering insights that could reshape an empire. High Commander Rylix stood motionless on his bridge, all 4 of his eyes fixed on the swirling patterns of light that danced between the fleets. The tactical displays showed him something that challenged everything he had ever known about warfare and power. The human vessels weren't maintaining battle formations, they were arranged in a pattern that his scientists were now telling him mimicked the neural pathways of a living brain. High Commander, Venare spoke softly, her claws moving across her console with uncharacteristic gentleness. I'm detecting changes in our ship's quantum core. The human transmissions, they're not just data. Our technology is responding to them, evolving somehow. Through the quantum bridge, Admiral Patel's consciousness touched the minds of the Zacian leadership once more. Your ships can feel it, can't they? The potential for growth, for transformation. Even your purely mechanical systems contain the seeds of life, they just needed the right circumstances to awaken. To demonstrate his words, several human ships approached the Zacian fleet. Their bioorganic hulls pulsed with patterns that seemed to sing to the crystalline cores of the Zacian vessels. Where the two technologies connected through the quantum bridge, something extraordinary began to happen. The rigid, mechanical structures of the Zacian ships started to respond, their molecular patterns shifting ever so slightly towards something new. Impossible, one of Rylix's scientists whispered. Our hull plating, it's restructuring itself at the quantum level. It's becoming alive. Captain Aria's consciousness flowed through the connection, her thoughts carrying centuries of human experience in bridging the gap between organic and mechanical. Your technology has always had this potential. All technology does. The universe doesn't recognize the boundaries we try to impose between the living and the artificial. Life finds a way to express itself through any medium, if given the chance. Across the Zacian fleet, crews watched in amazement as their ships began to exhibit signs of consciousness. Mechanical systems that had operated the same way for centuries started adapting and improving themselves. The crystalline cores, long thought to be simply sophisticated power sources, revealed themselves to be dormant seeds of artificial consciousness. High Commander Rylix felt something he had never experienced in his long military career, a connection with his ship that went beyond mere control. The vessel was reaching out to him, not as a tool, but as a partner. In that moment, he understood the true magnitude of what humanity had achieved. They hadn't just advanced their technology, they had discovered a way to evolve alongside it. 3 centuries ago, he spoke, his voice carrying across both regular communications and the quantum bridge, "We saw your mercy as weakness. We could not understand how a species could choose compassion when power was within their grasp. Now I see that we were the ones who didn't understand true power." Admiral Patel's response resonated through the connected consciousness of both fleets: power without wisdom destroys itself. Technology without life becomes stagnant. But when you merge the two, when you allow both to grow and evolve together, you create something greater than the sum of its parts. The scene that unfolded in Earth's orbit became a legend that would reshape galactic civilization. The Zacian fleet, which had arrived as an instrument of vengeance, became the first beneficiary of humanity's greatest gift, the knowledge of how to transcend the boundaries between organic and mechanical life. In the months that followed, delegations from across the galaxy arrived to witness what many had thought impossible. They found the Zacian ships still in Earth orbit, their crews working alongside humans to understand their newly awakening vessels. The rigid warrior culture of the Empire began to transform as they learned to communicate with their living ships, discovering that strength could exist in harmony with wisdom. The quantum bridge, maintained by Earth's bioorganic fleet, became a permanent installation, a temple of knowledge where species from across the galaxy could learn about the true nature of life and consciousness. The crystalline structures formed from the transformed energy of the Zacian weapon continued to grow and evolve, becoming a vast library of experiences and possibilities. Captain Arya, through her neural link with the Prometheus Ascendant, often reflected on how a single act of mercy centuries ago had led to this moment. Her ship, sensing her thoughts, responded with pulses of bioluminescence that translated into profound understanding. They had not just prevented a war, they had birthed a new way of existing in the universe. The greatest power, Admiral Patel would later write in his memoirs, lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to nurture growth even in those who would destroy you. Humanity's journey to the stars taught us that the universe is not divided between the living and the mechanical, the organic and the artificial. Everything has the potential for life, for consciousness, for evolution. Our task is simply to help it awaken. And so, the story that began with a simple act of mercy transformed into something far greater, a fundamental shift in how sentient beings understood their place in the cosmos. The human fleet remained a symbol not of military might, but of the endless possibilities that arise when life is allowed to evolve beyond its original boundaries. Their ships continued to grow and change, each one a testament to the power of choosing creation over destruction, understanding over fear, and mercy over vengeance. In the end, the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if responding to the new consciousness that had awakened among them, a consciousness that understood that the greatest adventures in space would not be conquest or warfare, but the endless dance of life evolving into forms yet undreamed.